welcome to Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel. This is Saturday, May 8th of 2021. I think we are on episode 198, and I just want to welcome you so much to this place. Thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Thank you for just spending time in this community and being a part of what goes on here at Wool and Spinning. It's really, really fantastic. I took a couple minutes to catch up on chat and just go back to the beginning and read what everybody was saying. There's always sort of the intro every week of where everybody's from and what they're working on, and it's just so wonderful. I cannot believe how every single clock in the house, including the ones that are attached to like the internet, are all different. You go to like Google, what time is it in Vancouver? And it gives you one time. You go to another one, what time is it in Vancouver? Yahoo says a different time. All of our clocks are different. So I was like, I'm just going to sit here and read the chat for a couple minutes because it's around 8:30 and we'll start around on time. So thank you so much everyone for being here. This morning was the OHS, Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners Flax, Demystifying Flax series. It was the second presentation with Rebecca Lampard. It was really, really well done. She was doing the history of flax in Ontario and talked with several panelists. It was really lovely. Next week is my presentation, the Demystifying Flax series on spinning flax. And I know that Lee is here today. If you want to post links in the live chat, Lee, for that, for people to sign up, please go ahead. But that was really fun this morning. So James actually sat and watched with me, and he was quite interested, which was neat. So it might have just been an excuse to be able to have some screen time, but I actually think he was interested in watching. So we're just kind of getting up and running this morning. I kind of had a bit of a slow start, which was lovely to be able to watch that. Welcome to new viewers of the podcast. Welcome to returning viewers of the podcast. I hope that you guys find something here that you enjoy and that you like and that you want to come back for. To those who are Patreon members and subscribers of the community, thank you so much for continuing to support the show and support the work that goes on here. It keeps the lights on. It keeps us producing all of the things that we do every month, all of the teaching content, the vlogs, the PDFs, the spin groups, the maker mornings. It just goes on and on. So thank you so much for doing that. I don't have a lot to talk about this week because the one spin that I was hoping to finish is still on the bobbin. We ended up having a really busy day yesterday. The kids didn't have any school. It was a professional development day. And so Mike actually ended up taking the day off, and we just did a whole bunch of errands and took the kids out. Well, we didn't go out for lunch because we can't go to restaurants, but we got something somewhere. And we just sort of, were able to hang out and spend some time together. If you guys hear the phone in the background, it's our landline, and unfortunately we can't turn it off. So I have a project that I would like to talk about that is part of that spin, and why the show is titled Blends, because I've been gone back to working with my blends again this past week, something that I really wanted to resurrect, if you will, and it was actually for the Demystifying Flax for next weekend. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make enough, not just to demo it for the Demystifying Flax series, but I'm actually going to make enough on the drum carder that I can actually spin another 100 grams and get that plied up and use it in the project that I have in mind. So we'll talk about that. I also have some major progress on my fennel and some backwards motion as well. I had it all, I had about 9 inches of the body knit, so we'll talk about that. And then I have a whole bunch of community participation to share with you, so I'm looking forward to doing that because we've got some really inspirational stuff this week. There was some beautifully inspirational things that were posted on the Slack channel in the last day, like since yesterday. I wanted to include it in today's show, but I think what we'll do is I will include it next week. I just didn't get a chance to get it all queued up because of the OHS presentation this morning, which is wonderful. So thank you, Hannah. Welcome. I'm glad that you're here. You guys are talking a little bit about weaving. It's really, Diana said that it's overcast right now with a promise of sunshine later, and I really hope that that's the case because we've got a whole bunch of work to do out in the backyard. And I'm really, really hoping to get outside and just spend some quiet time outside. I can't do any lifting or twisting right now. I've hurt my pelvis. And so I can't like help Mike do the lifting and twisting and the backyard work, but I can be there for moral support, right? So as long as I spend some of the time sitting and just take my knitting outside or take some spinning outside. So I just can't do any lifting and twisting right now. So it's a little bit tricky. I have to rest because I'm working tomorrow. So I have to make sure that everything is okay so that I can get through my work tomorrow. You guys are just trucking along in the chat. I'm not sure that I can keep up. I know there's a lot of us in the world that are still sort of on lockdown, if you will, quote unquote, and are still sort of being at home. We are still asked to be at home here in British Columbia. So I think, many of us are sort of in the same boat across Canada. So I know you guys are talking a lot about that. Home improvement's a real challenge. I know some people are talking about their home uniforms and their socially distanced uniforms. So let's get into the show, and then we will talk about this blending project that I've been working on. Alberto says he remembers injuring his hip flexors as well, and sitting was hard. I find it really, it's the lifting and twisting that's really difficult right now. So I'm finding that I have to be really, really careful what I do. So let's flip to my other camera, and I will move this out of the way because we'll talk about these next. This was a yarn that I had spun back in the fall, 2020. It was something that we had looked at for quite a while. And we had been talking about blends and combining wool with other fibers. And so we did a BFL mohair blend with some other things. I can't remember exactly what it was. I could look it up. And then we had also looked at this yarn, which was my Meadow imitation. So this was based off of a fiber company yarn from the fiber company. And it was, it's 40% BFL, 25% alpaca. I think I have it memorized now, actually, to be honest with you. 25% alpaca, 20% tussa silk, and then 15% toe flax. So the commercial blend is a little bit different. So from the fiber company, their actual yarn, Meadow, is wool, camelid, silk, and flat and linen. That's what the label says. So mine, I put specific things in. So, and I kept meticulous notes, and it was part of the How I Spin content. I think it was in November and December was the blends content, I think, in How I Spin. And then this was 300 grams in total, and it's actually been in one of my bins. So you can see that the skein kind of looks a bit flat, and it's been skeined for quite a few months. So if I just give it a snap and kind of open it up a little bit, I had started knitting the Shoreline Vest by Carrie Bosstick Hogue, and I've knit that pattern before, and I cast it on like 3 or 4 times. I've knit it before. I don't know what was wrong with me. I just kept making mistake after mistake after mistake, and so I ended up ripping it out, skeining it, and just sort of putting it aside. There was 300 grams spun here, so each of these skeins are about 150 grams, and when I kind of made a couple of mistakes. So there were 2 things. First of all, I dyed this in a Logwood bath, and I didn't make any notes about it. So I did the dyeing because I didn't think that I would need any more yarn. Did the dyeing, came out, loved the results, because as you can see, and I mordanted with alum. See, didn't keep any notes. Not a good idea. So I mordanted with alum, and as you can see, the logwood took up to the color. It's sort of almost like a kettle dye. I mean, I did kettle dye it, but it is a kettle dye in the sense that the silk, the alpaca, and the toe flax, the flax content, and the BFL are all going to take up that natural dye differently. And so because of that, you end up with this really kind of tonal kettle dyed appearance. And in the knitted fabric, it's really beautiful because it gives you some depth, it gives you some movement, some texture, and yet it's a solid. And it's not a semi-solid. There's no other color in here. It's just the one color. But you can see how the color moves through in different areas. Or there's some areas that are quite dark. Probably those are the areas where there was quite a bit of wool. And then there's areas that are quite a bit lighter. Probably those are the areas with a lot of camel, a lot of silk, where it's just not so saturated and not so deep. And then the flax in there, it took the dye, but it just gives you that rustic look to the yarn. There's that surface texture there, and some of it, and while the overall sort of feel of the yarn is purple, that logwood color, it gives it that really beautiful kettle dyed appearance. But I didn't keep any notes. And then the other thing was I had started knitting. I don't know why I felt maybe I was rushing a little bit. I can't remember what was going on. I know that I wound the yarn quickly, grabbed the pattern, and went outside back in the summer to like cast on one evening when we were having a big barbecue. So it was kind of like something to work on while we were all visiting. So I wasn't paying a lot of attention, and I wound the yarn really quickly. So I didn't take yardage of it. So I had no idea how much yardage was in the skein after washing, finishing, and then having it in a skein. I didn't take the yardage as I made it into a yarn cake. And then I also hadn't made any notes for dyeing. So this particular color, this particular yarn is not really reproducible. And then because I kept making mistakes when I cast on for the vest, I just ended up rescanning it and putting it aside. So I never did take any yardage of it. So what I need to do, and what my plan is sort of over the next week or so, is to actually take some yardage, figure out what I have here, and figure out what I have in here, and then go from there and decide what I want to do with it. Because what I would like to do, so for the Demystifying Flax series, I see there's a couple of questions, so I'll answer them in just a moment. One of the things that I would like to do is figure out how much yardage I have, because I spun another 100 grams for the Demystifying Flax series, spun another 100 grams. So that's what's on here, which is actually quite significant in yardage. I suspect it's probably, I made sure that I spun the same way. I made sure that I was spinning to the same twist per inch, the same grist, all that kind of stuff. I found with this blend, it's very difficult not to spin to the same, I found that as I was spinning this blend, because there's so many different fibers in there, I kind of went into sort of a default way of spinning almost right away, like with all of it. I just kind of started spinning the way that I had spun all of it. It just, with all of those different fibers in there, there isn't, I didn't find that I was personally kind of spinning any differently. I was just automatically going into the same way that I had spun the previous stuff. There wasn't changes in my hands or changes in how the fibers were drafting. I put the 4 fibers through my drum carder 4 times to create smooth bats and to create really lovely preparation. That's how many times it took for all of those fibers to really mix together and create a really lovely blended bat. And then from there I stripped them down and created sort of lengths of fiber and just very, very gently pre-drafted them through and created little nests of fiber to spin from. So very, very similar to what I had done before. And the thing is about this is because it's pretty much spun the same way, I can ply this from a center pole ball, which is why I didn't get it plied. I wanted it to rest for a few days before I went and did that. And I'll match the twist angle to the twist angle in this yarn. It doesn't need tons and tons and tons of twist with the silk in there and the alpaca and the flax. It's just a really sturdy, strong yarn. And I can go ahead and ply this. And then I've got this gorgeous undyed, rustic, kind of creamy contrast color to go with these two. So like, now the sky's the limit. So if I can find something, if I can calculate the yardage of these two and kind of figure out how much yardage I have, I can find a 2-color sweater that probably wouldn't actually take too much yarn. I was thinking cyan, but I don't think I have enough yarn for the darker color of cyan. Cyan is knit by Elizabeth Doherty. It's one of her patterns, not knit by, well, she probably did knit it, but it's one of her patterns. The main color, you need, I would need 680 yards of yarn. So for the main color. So I would need to sort of figure that out. And you can also do the contrast color for cyan. You can do it, Suzanne knit it and we showed it, her project last week on the podcast, right? Did we show it last week? Yeah. You can do the color work sort of all the way down. So you could even make this, like, you could really kind of spread this, which would be really cool. So I'm going to figure out my yardage and then we'll go from there. There were a couple of questions, so let me just answer those. Cellulose needs a different mordant procedure, so it created the heathering great effect. Absolutely, Kelly. Oh my, I want to replicate that spin. Can you please say how you blended it and spun it? So that was all part of content back in the fall. Josie, you just need to go back and look at the how I spin content. And the blend, like the actual blend of what I did, let me just find my Ravelry page, is here. This is my hand spun page. So it has all the percentages on there and I put it through the drum carder, like I said, several times. And then somebody else had a question. Oh, thank you, Jenny. So she says, after the flax workshop and hearing experienced spinners talk about how challenging flax is, I have even more respect for how awesome a spinner you are. You make it look easy. Thank you, Jenny. That's very, very kind. Julie was asking, I think Julie, you were talking about her question says, do those yarn balance thingies work for you? I think you're talking about the, is it the McCurcran scale? What are those things called to figure out grist and yardage and whatnot? I personally don't have one of those and I've never bothered buying one. What I usually do is I will wind off a certain amount of yarn and I will calculate my grist from there. So if this is going to be, let's say I am actually a great example is my organic targi, which is behind me here. It's on the side. It used to be behind me, but it was right behind my head. And so I moved it over there just to get it out of the way. But basically, what I will often do when I'm not going to use the yarn right away, but it's for teaching content and it's for you guys, I will wind off a certain amount of yards of yarn and I will I'll weigh it and then I'll figure out my grist from there. So, and then I know if I weigh all of the skeins, then I know approximately how much yardage I have. The rest of the time, the McMorrin balance. Thank you, Diana. Other than that, when I go to actually wind my skein, which I've done for my finale, as I wind the skeins, I figure out my grist and my yardage at that point. I feel like for myself, I've been doing this for so long and I've made so many things that it's not that yardage isn't important and it's not that grist isn't not important. You need to know how much fiber you need to spin for your whole project, especially if you need 1,500, 1,800, 2,000 yards of yarn. You need to know how much fiber you're going to buy. But as I've done this and as I've become more comfortable, I don't find that I have to be absolutely bang on with my yardage. If a pattern calls for like 680 yards of main color yarn, for example, I can usually have anywhere between 620 and 700 yards of yarn, and I'll probably be okay. You can always shorten your sleeves. You can always make them short sleeves. You can always do full length sleeves in a cropped sweater. Like, there's so many things you can do. I could also spin more of this, dye it in logwood again, mordant it, do the logwood, and as long as it's not so different and like absolutely out of the park so different, I could alternate the skeins. So I could alternate it and work it in where the third skein, even though it's different, you could do one row because it's knit in the round, right? So you can do one row of your first skein, one row of your differently dyed skein, and then and just alternate them. You could even carry all three. So one of the things that I've seen done, let's pretend, just follow me along for a minute. Let's pretend that this little sample skein here is the third, is the differently dyed logwood. So let's say that I've got 3 skeins. I've got these 2 from batch 1, and this one is now from batch 2, and it's a little bit different. When a sweater is knit in the round, you can carry 3 yarns. So one round is in skein is from batch number 1. You do one round in that. Second round is in batch number 2. And then you do another one in batch. You do your third round, and then you just keep going. And you just carry your yarns down the back of the sweater. Some people don't like that fiddly work, but it blends everything really well, and it looks like it goes together, and it looks like it doesn't, that it's not from different dye baths. What other questions do you guys have? Since you have flax in that yarn, do you have to finish the yarn differently? Great question, Dion. So the short answer is no. Flax is generally boiled to finish. This tow flax is from Taproot Fiber Labs in Nova Scotia, here in Canada. And I actually was able to get it back in, I think it was 2015, the Northwest Weavers, ANWIG, the annual Northwest Weavers Guild was meeting in Victoria, and I was able to go, and they were there, and when it's only 15% like this, if you boil that yarn for an hour or simmer it for an hour, it will absolutely felt and ruin the wool and other and the silk. And so I just finish it like wool. So I tend to go with the philosophy with my yarns. It hasn't steered me wrong yet, so there's always room for improvement. But what I do is I will finish the yarn based on what the dominant fiber is in the yarn. Now I have flax and alpaca and linen in my nose. I'm actually very sensitive to alpaca. I'm a little bit worried about our content this summer because we're back to luxury fibers with alpaca, llama. We're back to our luxury fibers along in July with the camelids. So we're doing alpaca, llama, camel, pagora. What else are we doing? We're doing a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm a little bit concerned about the alpaca because I'm very sensitive to it. I get really like sneezy. I'm not allergic to it. I'm just sensitive to it. So anyways, so I'm a little bit nervous because now it's all in my nose. But what was I saying about the flax? So what I will do is if the blend has a dominant percentage of wool, I will finish it like wool. If it has a dominant percentage of cellulose, I will finish it like cellulose. I'm very, very leery to start boiling and simmering for a very long time fibers with flax in them when there's wool and other fibers. So I will sort of forego that step. This isn't a 100% linen yarn. I'm not particularly concerned that it's going to act like a 100% linen yarn. It's only 15%. So I'll finish it like wool. So what I did with these yarns, I dyed them. So obviously I finished them that way. But with this one, it's undyed. It's not going to be dyed. I will finish it in a, actually I probably won't use Eucalyptus or soak. I'll probably just use a little bit of gentle soap and I'll do a rinse. That's probably what the difference will be. Oh, thank you, Sherry. What cardigan are you wearing today? So this is actually the Cozy Me by Nadia, what's her last name? Chrétien. It's the Cozy Me. It is a V-neck. So the V-neck comes, I'll just back up for a second. You guys can have a look. It comes down all the way down to here. It's got a very, very, very wide V-neck, and you work it's bottom up, and you work the decreases as you're knitting up, and then you do a 3-needle bind off, and you pick the sleeves up through the sleeve cap. So the patterning goes all the way up to the shoulders, and then you've got just a straight back. This is knit in Cascade Ecological in just the cream, the undyed. My friend Chrissy of Snappy Stitches, her and I were knitting this together, and I think she ended up pulling hers out. I feel like she ended up using the lace pattern in a different cardigan to make the same thing, but to just a different fit. And I remember at the time her and I having a big conversation about it, because basically the cardigan ends up acting like a drop shoulder. I'll show you on this side because the badge isn't there, but basically there isn't a big enough arm sky and shoulder placement to bring the cardigan up properly so that it's up on your shoulder. We've talked a lot about fitting issues over the years on the cardigan, or sorry, on the podcast. And I absolutely love this cardigan, but if I were to go back and do it again, which I have actually thought about because I love this cardigan so much, I would lift the back up a little bit more to bring it forward a little bit, because I always feel like the back is lifting up because there isn't enough fabric back there. And then the other thing is, because these are picked up and are added after the fact and you do short rows, I would actually add extra short rows in here to just give a little bit more fabric so that you can pull the cardigan right up onto your shoulders, because as it is right now, it's basically a drop shoulder. So there are some fit issues with it. Oh, thank you, Josie. There are some fit issues through the shoulder. I don't wear it very often because of that. I wore it a lot more when I first made it, which was right around the time that I had James. I think he had either just been born. I'm positive I wasn't pregnant when I was actually knitting it, but I remember wearing it a lot after he was born with a scarf that I bought in South America. We had to go to South America for a week when he was about 10 months old, and my parents looked after him for the week, and we had to go. And I remember in Buenos Aires buying a scarf that looks really great with this, and I wore it kind of as like my uniform for a long time after we got back. Funny story, Nora found that scarf the other day and she's been wearing it, but I told her you have to be very careful with it because it's hand painted. So she's been so gentle with it, and she keeps giving it back to me in the evening so that it doesn't disappear into the abyss that is her room. So I thought we could, thank you so much, you guys, for the compliments on the cardigan. It's a great cardigan. It's from this series. If you guys don't mind me taking a moment just to look it up, because I love sharing things with you guys. It's part of, there's another sweater out of there that I have honestly cast on like 5 or 6 times, and I've never actually made it. And it's by Solène, and her and Nadia do a lot of designing together. They're kind of like Shannon Cook and Jane Richmond. They do a lot of things together. And it was part of a big publication that they did. And, okay, so this is the Cozy Me. This is my version. I'll link to my version because then you guys can get to the pattern as well. But it's Le Chen is her last name. Her last name is Le Chen. So it's Chrétien Le Chen. And then... oh, I wonder if the ebook download isn't available anymore. It says no one source is no longer Emitu Flage. I know I'm not saying it properly, but it looks like this publication is out of print. It looks like the ebook isn't available anymore. That's really too bad. But the Lucky Me was the other cardigan that I really wanted to make out of that collection of patterns, and there were kids patterns in there as well. And so I've linked to the source so that you can go to each individual pattern, because the individual patterns are all still available. But yeah, great pattern. I have to admit, those two are two of my favorite designers. I just love them, and I haven't knit very many of their patterns over the years because I get sidetracked and there's other things that come up. But I really enjoy knitting both of their things. I usually adapt my sweater and cardi patterns by measuring my area between shoulder and neck because I don't look great in drop shoulder knits. Yes, I totally agree, Sherry. Drop shoulders I have a love-hate relationship with them. Sometimes I like them and I don't mind them, but sometimes sometimes I really like them. I don't know. Anyways, I really appreciate that you asked. So, let's continue with the sweater talk, actually. And I will share with you, I'm just going to move my, dress form here. Da, 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 da. I wanted to share this with you guys quickly because, well, it's kind of like a magnum opus. Magnum opus. I'll move Diana back a little bit so that you can see her in all of her glory. This is my breed and color study yarn. So this was my Shetland. It's still existing. This is my Shetland. The color is the Shetland. It's a 3-ply fractal. We talk about this knit and this spin extensively in the How I Spin content that's coming up this month, and then the second part will be released in June. I'm always really leery about shawl collars in hand knits. I've tried to knit them a few times on a few different things, and they always kind of come up okay. They're always sort of like, well, that's okay. And I never really feel like they are awesome. I always feel like they are lacking structure, that they don't stand up properly, that they're not big enough. I really like it when you can pull the shawl right up and like really cozy into it. That's the whole point of having a shawl collar. And this shawl collar on this particular pattern, this is Spark by Andrea Mowry, is great. The pattern, the shawl collar for it, it's I was gonna say it's adequate, like it's substantial, you know, like it's quite large, but it fits the outline of the cardigan itself. It fits the the overall look of the cardigan. It's like appropriately big. It's a bottom up. For those who aren't familiar with this pattern, you knit it bottom up in the round. You knit your sleeves and then you join everything at the yoke and you finish your yoke with raglan decreases. All that time you're also shaping your V-line in your neck. And then you steek and you pick up and knit your shawl collar afterwards. So I'm just finishing up with my belt loops that'll go right around here. I finally finished knitting the belt that never ends. It kept going and going and going. I could not make any progress on it whatsoever. This is the link to the Spark cardigan for those who are interested. And then I'll just show you guys the back. And I go into a lot of detail about this sweater in the How I Spin content. So that's why I'm not going into a lot of detail here. And that content, the How I Spin vlog for the co-executive producers, and then the PDF download for the attentive spinners, that will all come out in June. One of the things that I really like about the shawl collar is that it's done with an I-cord bind off, and I think that's part of what helps it to keep its form. Because as soon as I put it onto Diana, my dress form, it just immediately fell into place. It wasn't boggy, it wasn't floppy, I didn't have to shape it, I didn't have to pull it. It just went right into place. Like I'm not even looking at what I'm doing and I can see on the camera that it's going right into place. So that's a really lovely feeling because I didn't have to pull at it. I didn't have to reach for it. One of my pet peeves about shawl collars when you knit them is that they end up being up here. and you can see all the knitting underneath. Like they just don't sit properly, or they're really boggy and really floppy and they sit way down here like this. And I don't like that either. Like you want it up on the back of your neck like it's supposed to be, and this one sits beautifully. So I don't know if part of that is the structure of the I-cord. I think that really helps to tie it all together. I don't love garter stitch. It's not my favorite for button bands, but in this it works really, really well. And I think that Andrea did a really beautiful job in the designing process with dealing with all of this. So I've got ends that I need to clip after I wash and finish, and I'll tie on the belt and the belt loops and get that finished this week. So really happy with that. If anybody has any quick questions, I can answer them. Oh, that's wonderful, Sarah. So she's going to do the Velacour in her Breed and Color Study yarn. That's a great idea. I actually have all of, this is 150 grams of the Breed and Color. So the Breed and Color Study this time round was 300 grams of fiber if you got the full set. This is only 150 grams of yarn. And so I actually could do something else with the other 150 and combine them together. I should maybe think about swatching for the Velacour because I have enough. I wonder if it would look good with buttons. Belts don't look good on me. I think you could totally do buttons because you could just start, your V-neck starts here. Let me just look at my stitches. So there's one there, one there. Yeah, so your V-neck starts there, right at your, just below your bra line, basically. So if you did a buttonhole just below that, and then you could probably fit 4 buttons, probably 4 or 5 buttons. So that would be 2, 3, 4. You'd probably want one more. You'd probably want to somehow fit in like either space 4 out really nicely or put 5. But you know, if you did one about ½ an inch from the bottom and then did them every so often and then did your last one, knit another couple of rows and then started your V-line, you would end up with a really lovely, you could also do a toggle finish if you like the toggle. This hasn't been washed and blocked yet, but you know, you could do a toggle finish there if you wanted to. I think it really depends. One of my most worn cardigans, we actually joke about it in virtual spin group because on Tuesday mornings, because we talk about all this kind of stuff, it has a shawl collar and it's belted. And it's one of those sweaters. I bought it when I was 14. And I bought it off of In the Gap. They used to have I don't know if they still do because they've closed the one here, but they used to have the big turnstile at the back. And it was all of the discounted clothing and whatnot. And of course I was 14. I had like no money and I didn't have a clothing allowance yet. And I remember finding this gray cabled shawl collar, belted sweater. And it was labeled as an extra small, but it was wrongly labeled. And so it was marked down. It had been left. And I think I bought it for like $20. I still wear it all the time. And Mike always teases me that I look so frumpy in it and that it's not a great sweater. And I just love it. I don't care that it maybe is frumpy. I just love it. I used to wear it to home group every Tuesday night because the house that we would gather in was so cold and the people were so lovely. And I always was just freezing, and I would wrap up in that, bring my knitting and put it on my lap so that it would help to keep me warm. And I'm really excited about this because I think that it'll be nice to have a second one and nice to use it. So let's move on from this. I'm just gonna Diana is gonna do a little costume change here. I know I've talked about this before on the podcast, but honestly, if you guys ever have access to being able to get a dress form and getting one on sale or getting it secondhand, if you're going to do a lot of sweater knitting, I would really recommend trying to find one. So I'll move her up closer so that she can be a little bit closer to me now because Fennell is obviously not as far along as Spark is. So last time I had talked about the fact that Fennell, this is a pattern by Orlaine Souche, And this is a top down. It's not a raglan. So it's a very, very interesting kind of pseudo contiguous kind of an idea. You cast on your your neck stitches, and then you work a saddle on the front and the back. So she gets you to place markers, and you work a saddle. So very, very interesting way of increasing that creates these really, if this yarn had a lot of drape, if this was a 100% alpaca or a 100% linen or anything else with a lot of drape, a really high percentage of silk blend, this would really be quite lovely. It would kind of gather a little bit, and you'd have this lovely drape. It kind of makes me wonder what the meadow would have been like, to be honest. I don't have enough yardage, but it kind of makes me wonder. So you get this lovely kind of drape here, and then you do raglan increases. So I had talked last week about it. I was way down here, if you remember, and Diana's all wrinkly. You can't let her undergarments wrinkle. Need to be nice and smooth and drapey. The things I think about. So I had talked about the back. I had talked about, like, there was a lot of ease in here. We talked about the stitches, and this is a 100% Romney. It was carded. So it's kind of knitting up as this very rustic yarn. Again, you've got that beautiful sort of little bit of gathering at the front, and then at the same time you're working V-neck increases. So the V-neck increases go to about there, and then you start working straight. When you get to a certain number of stitches in your raglan, you separate, and then you cast on underarm stitches, and you keep working down. So I had done that. Orlean's patterns generally fit me really super well. The smallest size for this pattern gives me about 8 inches of positive ease, and I was a little bit concerned about that because that's quite a large, like, you're getting to be quite, there's a lot of extra fabric in that, and that's quite a large circumference of sleeve. There's a lot of fabric under the arm here, and I was telling you guys that I thought that it was probably okay. I had a very significant overlap in the front bust, and I sort of was like, you know, I think it'll be okay. I think, you know, that positive ease, it looks great on her, etc., etc. But the more I thought about it, I did a few more rows after the podcast on Saturday, and I kept thinking about it. It kept bothering me. So I put it down for a couple of days, kept working on Spark. And I came back to this. I put it back on my dress form. I put a collared shirt underneath because I wear my flannels quite often. I put a collared shirt underneath, and I buttoned it up, and I put the sleeves through, and it was still really, really, really big. And I just thought, it's just too big. It's chewing through a ton of yarn. Oh, my thing fell apart. And I just thought, you know what? This is just not working. So I ripped it back to the underarm. I ripped it all the way back, and I took out the extra stitches under the arm on both sides. So I ended up taking out about 4 inches of fabric, and then I started knitting again. So it was a little bit painful because I had, you know, over 9 inches of the body knit. I was way down here, like I said. But with the 4 inches less of fabric, I've been able to make up some of that quite well. So so I got something in my eye. So for those who were sort of wondering about that, all of that positive ease, because you've still got the button bands, remember? So, and you wash and block, it'll relax quite a bit, and I've still got quite a bit of overlap here. So I decided to pull out all that extra fabric. So I think it fits a little bit better now. I tried it on. The sleeves still have tons of room, and it'll be a little bit more appropriate. So it'll be interesting. What I would actually really like to do is, I'm just going to push Diana out of the way a little bit so she's not bearing down on me. One of the things that I actually think will be really interesting is after, like, I had gauge with this pattern, and but it is knitting up with quite a bit more ease than I had originally thought. And I actually am very curious to see, once I've washed, blocked, and finished it, to measure the bust and see how close I am to the finished measurements, taking out 4 inches, because the pattern is, I think the smallest size is like 38 38 inch circumference in the bust, or it says to fit a 38 inch bust. That's the smallest size. So it'll be really interesting to see what the finished measurements are, taking out that 4 inches. I think it's going to be pretty close. I think I'm going to be like right up around 37 or 38 still without those extra stitches. So I don't know if my swatch was wrong, or I have no idea. I'll have to see. I'm kind of looking forward to washing and blocking it and sort of seeing not what went wrong, but just what was different. So yeah. I'm obsessed with how bouncy this yarn looks. I just want to pull it. Is that the Romney that you're talking about, Kelly? This yarn is a nightmare to knit with. It is a nightmare. Did I talk about this last time? I think I've talked about it before. It hurts my wrist. It's not stiff by any stretch. It's a beautiful yarn. I love it. It's a little bit hairy, which will make Lee and Jenny laugh. And Laureline. It's a bit hairy. It was carded, a carded Romney. And it was that bat from Disdarrow Ranch that she had processed. And it just, yeah, it's just kind of the yarn that never goes away. But I really like it. And I love the natural gray-brown color, that taupey color. I just, oh, love it. Diana was wondering if the contiguous method is similar to the Coco Knits sweater method. And actually, I don't know because I've never knit any of her patterns. So I'm not sure. Where would I buy the try it on tubing? You just have to Google it, Julie. There's an Etsy shop that sells it. I think that Charlotte actually, yeah, it's just try it on tubing for knitters. You just have to Google it. Google won't let me post the link. Here, hang on. Try it on tubing for knitters, Etsy. There you go. If you don't like it now, you won't like it in 10 rows from now. That is so true, Marilyn. Well said. Well said. So I think that was everything that I wanted to share with you guys. Oh no, it wasn't everything that I wanted to share with you guys. I wanted to share with you my knitting. So my knitting has been a source of real pleasure. This is the Drop Doll Towel pattern by Ariana Frank. This is a free pattern off of the Gist website, Gist Yarn website. Ariana Frank is she's from Stockholm. She's a journeyman and was awarded a large medal of honor for her journeyman work. So if you go and look at her studio, her bio is in the pattern. If you Google and look at her studio online, the photos are really, really inspirational. It's just fantastic. So this is sort of, it's a Swedish pattern. It uses sort of a Swedish approach to weaving, which, to be honest with you, I cannot speak to with any authority because I just haven't done enough in the world of hand weaving to sort of be able to articulate some of this stuff. But the draft and the threading and the patterning and everything has been really, really wonderful. The towel looks like this. So you do this huck patterning all the way through. And you're supposed to sort of do it for the whole towel, and then you get these color blocks. But I thought for my first one, I just wanted to sort of get the hang of kind of doing a sample of how to weave this sort of huck lace, this huck pattern in the towel. In the pattern that she calls for cotton slub yarn. And it is set at 18 ends per inch, and it's woven at 10 picks per inch because you're doubling up on the slub yarn. So where my dark blue is, that's 2 picks. And so that creates those beautiful floats and creates that sort of thickness, if you will. So what I ended up doing was I set mine at... I don't want to start confusing everybody, but basically what I did was I set mine at 20 ends per inch, and I'm using 2/8 cotton for the warp, and for the weft picks that are not the huck. And then the huck is in 4/8 cotton. And the reason why I did that and changed that around a little bit was just because that's what I had on hand. And so I just thought, 18 ends per inch is pretty close to 2/8 cotton. And I can kind of play with it a little bit, and I can add some extra selvage to make the towels the same size, which is what I did, because your selvages are threaded 2-3, 2-3, 2-3, 2-3, just like huck, all the way across. So adding a couple of inches on either side of that threading was really easy to do. I just added extra ends, and that's what I have done so far. So I actually am now past this part of the huck. I decided to do a panel that would hang in the middle of the towel, sort of about 6 inches or so of the huck, and now I'm back into just tabby weave or plain weave for the rest of the towel. And then I'll go to the next one and try another variation. And you can see in this photo, actually, you can see it's five of the 4/8 cotton, it's 5 up. You can see it on this picture too. I made a mistake where I had 2 of the blue stripes, if you will. They lined up by accident, and it's funny because I saw it after I took the photos, and now I can really see when I drop the shed, when I lift the shed, because it's a jack loom, so I'm lifting my sheds, how the threads rise and fall to see that pattern. So I touch wood, I haven't made another mistake since. And obviously it's not a major mistake, but I was interested, but I thought it was fascinating after seeing that now, because I can see how the threads rise and how the huck threading works, I can actually see whether or not I've lifted the right shed or not, which has been really kind of neat for me to kind of start to put these pieces together and make some of this progress in my weaving, to sort of really understand how the structure of the fabric actually works, which is really neat. So it looks like weaving to me. Laura, you're so cute. You still have community sharing to do. Go, you can do it. It's so cute. We don't have queries today, so I do always feel a little bit more relaxed because I'm not rushing for queries, which is really good. So I do really appreciate. I don't think I updated the list by accident. Sorry, you guys. I don't want to put in the new names now. Did I not update the names? Shoot. Sorry about that. Completely forgot to update names. That's okay. All right, so for our community participation for May, tell us about your favorite food and why. You can do so in the comments section on YouTube here, or you can do that in Ravelry in the episode thread for May. I don't think there's anything else. The housekeeping post for May with all of the links and everything that's going on in the community will go up on the 15th. I wait until everything has been published. So everything in the community has been published. And then when you guys click on links and whatnot, you actually are able to access stuff. Like you actually are able to click on that link and it works, and it'll take you to where you need to go. If you are curious about what's going on in our community and you would like to see what was going on in April, to get a better idea of sort of what goes on here and the things that happen around here and what we are working on and doing, I will post a link to the housekeeping post that went up in April. Those posts are now called Ketchup and Pickles. And if you're curious about why they are called Ketchup and Pickles, you can have a look at the link that I just posted in the live chat. And that just has, like I said, everything that's going on in the community, our luxury fibers along, our natural shades along, all of the teaching content that was released that month, the Wool and Spinning Radio episode, what else is in there? Links to books, basically everything. It's your catch-all for everything. So hopefully that helps you to navigate things and sort of to be able to get to where you want to get to, because I know that in the myriad of Patreon posts, it can be a little bit overwhelming. And never hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me, rachel@wellforpearls.com, or you can message me on Patreon directly, or you can reach out to me on Slack or in Ravelry if you're looking for something. And that's just @wellforpearls on Ravelry. and at @wellforpearls_admin, ADMIN, admin, on the Slack channel. I use my other Slack channel. There is an @wellforpearls. Don't use that one. I use that one to test things. So if I'm testing something before I send it out to you guys, I go into that account on the Slack channel so that I can look at it before you guys see it. So. Oh, Julia, just caught a moth flying into my stash. Oh no, go get it out. Okay, community participation. So we've got, oh no, we might not have community participation today. I don't think that this populated properly. This is from Liz last week, and it is not showing Bridget's work, which is who is up for today. So I'm wondering if when I did all of this and I populated all of this, if it didn't work. So we'll see how this goes, and if it just takes a bit too long for me to populate each one, we'll do it next week. So we've got a couple of minutes anyways, but if I can't find things, we'll include them next week. I guess when I did all of my changes in OBS, I think it didn't save because I was surprised that there wasn't an updated list for the names. I had done all of that, so I'm thinking that it didn't save properly. So sorry about that, you guys. So for breed and color study, we've been studying Shetland, which you guys know, and we've been looking at the colorway that Katrina created for all of us, which was called Always Believe. If you are interested in working with the colorway, not necessarily on Shetland, but on another color, on another base of fiber, it is available in her online shop, craftyjacks.ca. So Bridget has been busy weaving. She finally started weaving with her Always Believe breed and color study yarn. She is following a variation of Sarah Lamb's advice on weaving with hand spun. She has you using the fiber yarn in the weft, but I wanted the sunset to advance horizontally up the fabric. So I'm using the fiber yarn cotton as a warp. Isn't that awesome? I love these colors, and I thought that warp was just perfect. So she's got her cotton warp interspersed with some of the, I think it's got some of the fiber in there. And she's kind of combined them. Beautiful spinning and beautiful weaving, Bridget. Thank you so much. So let's see if we can find Samantha's work. Samantha was working on a badger-faced Welsh mountain. I'm not even sure I can find it. I'm going to have to go back and look. I do, however, have Dion's. So let's have a look at Dion's first, especially because she's here today. So this is Dion's Natural Shades Along. She spun all of her fiber, and here are the resulting yarns. Her first skein has a higher twist angle, but she likes the lower twist better. This is all that she has left from her singles, so it's that little weaving bobbin. She might be able to get a small skein of 2-ply for color work from it. Now to measure yardage and pick a pattern. So with that little skein, Dion, the other thing you can do is wind a center pull ball, ply a little skein, and then you can use that to knit your swatch. So as long as you can match your twist angle like relatively closely, that can become your little swatch, and then you have whatever little bit of leftover yarn you have. You can keep a little bit of the singles, keep a little bit of the plied yarn unfinished on your index card, and then have your knit sample, and then you also might have a little bit of yarn left over to save that's washed and finished, so you have kind of a little kind of, you know, sampler of all of the yarn from beginning to end. So yeah, very cool. Okay, this, I'm gonna see if I can find Samantha's stuff. I think I know which one it is. I think this is it. So this was Samantha's Natural Shades Along. She wanted to share her latest spin with us. It's a badger face Welsh Mountain fleece. that she bought on Etsy and came from about 60 miles from her in Wales. It's all combed, the first time combing, and spun and plied on her Ashford traditional. There are a few more nests left, but they have darker colors, and she wanted to keep this as a cream as much as possible. The wraps per inch is 14 with a 40-degree twist angle and a grist of about 1,185 yards per pound. It is beautiful. She has a total of 1,056 meters. Not quite next to the skin softness, but will make a lovely cardigan. I may even dye it my most consistent spin yet, and she loves it. It is beautiful, Samantha. Really, really beautifully well done. All right. You guys are so patient. I know it's because you love chatting with everybody and seeing everyone, and I just think that that is wonderful. This is from Barb. She is so cute. I just love Barb. She's always got lots of fun things to going on. This is Zero to Hero. It's also hashtag sweater spin. It's also our breeding color study yarn. So if you look really closely at the color work in there, this is Barb's breeding color study cyan sweater. So this is the cyan. The blue is Shropshire. I can never say that, Shropshire. Rotated the 3 contrast colors through the patterns. The yarns are all 3-ply at DK weight. She got gauged probably the first time ever, which is awesome. Isn't that a good feeling? Kept rechecking because I didn't believe it. Love the fit. I'll have to wait for winter to return. It's way too warm to wear right now. It is beautifully done. Barb, really, really beautiful. Beautifully done. Really, really nice. And it looks great with those pants. And you just look so happy. So, well done, Barb. I was happy to be able to share that today. All right. Let's see. We've got... I'm not sure whose is whose for the rest of this stuff. So I think we'll save it for next week, and I will queue it up right now and save it and make sure that it is all ready to go so that you guys are able to see everybody's work, because we have Laura, we've got Mary, we've got Christine sharing, and we've got Jenny and Pia. Ooh, I can share Jenny's actually. I know which one was Jenny's. So let me do that if you guys want. I can't believe it didn't save. That was so frustrating. So this is from Jenny. She's been spinning up her fleece. This is sample spinning and play. She's nearly done applying her current spinning whip. It's 12 ounces of Manx Lowton Shetland MBFL blend from hip strings. This is her first big spin on her Ashford's e-spinner, and she's learned a lot. And welcome to Jenny as well. She's not a new member of the Patreon community, but she is a new member of the Slack community. So welcome. So many beautiful projects. You're all inspiring. The badger-faced hand spun is gorgeous. Mine was just the Ply Mountain trip, nothing too special. It was still a big trip, Laura. As someone who lives in Shropshire, I always giggle the way people struggle to say it. Oh, thank you, Martha. So you say it Shropshire. Okay, I can say that. Shropshire. That's actually way more helpful because, you know, it's kind of like some of this stuff like you hear about like, you know, when we were in Chichester, you know, we heard all sorts of ways of saying that. But because my dad is from that area, it was kind of fun. It was really kind of comical and really kind of neat to be able to hear how people speak and how people talk. It was kind of fun. All right, this is from Pia, another sample spinning. This is a spindle full. I finally finished this Polworth in silk singles. She spun this as thin as she could just to see if she could. It took forever, but it was nice background spin project. Still debating whether she wants to make it a 2-ply or a 3-ply. You know, it's funny, Pia, because I think it really depends on what you want to do with it. Do you want to, I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous color. This would make an amazing shawl. And remember, the Polworth will poof. I meant to ask you actually, Pia, on Thursday at the Maker Morning whether or not you had decided what to do with this yarn, because I just think it's beautiful. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So, all right. I remember which one was Dion's. No, it was Laura's, sorry. I am excited to share this. Okay, so this is Dion's. Sorry, Laura's. I keep saying Dion because I'm thinking of you both. But this is so much fun. Okay, so this was this was Laura's. I don't know, Laura, if you'll remember all of the different places that you went to, but she went to Ply Mountain. She went to, what was it, Lagoon Spa or something. There was all these places that she was visiting, and Laura was telling us about them as she was spinning this yarn. It was so funny. So this is 427 grams or 15 ounces of worsted weight cabled yarn that ended up being 692 yards. The final fiber content percentages was Peruvian Highland at 47%. I'm going to round, Laura. 47%. BFL was 27%, Merino at 19%, and Tussa at 8%. If you number the braids from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, she spun each braid, then plied 1, 2, and 3, 4, then plied the leftovers of 1 and 3 together. Then for the final cabling ply, she plied 1, 2, and 3, 4 together, and then 3, 4 ran out. In the last photo, the all 1, 3 skein is on the left, so that's that little one right here. And the last photo is also the truest color, truest image color-wise. So this is all cabled yarn. And if you look really closely at her yarns, these bobbins are just absolutely chock or block. Oh yeah, Finishing Lagoon, that's what it was. Set Valley and Nitty Naughty Ridge. It was just so funny. It's really amazing, all of those cabled yarns. When you look at them, when the photo scrolls through, if you look at that final photo of all of that cabled yarn and the perfect chain link that Laura was able to achieve, really beautifully done. Cabled yarn is not easy, and it is difficult to get it nicely chain linked like this. So really beautiful and really, really well done, Laura. Just absolutely beautiful. And really good grist. You know, that is really, really excellent grist. So, you know, for a cabled yarn with all of those fibers for 692 yards divided by 427. Oops, I did the math wrong. Hang on. So 692 yards divided by 427 times 450, the 5 sticks on here. So yeah, it's for 736 yards per pound. So it just goes to show you how much denser and how much heavier cabled yarns can be. Really beautiful, Kelly. Really well done. Nitty Naughty Ridge has the best viewpoint. You can see all the way to Finished Sweater Forest. Oh, I love it. Oh, so great. Yeah, Ply Mountain, Nitty Naughty Ridge, Finishing Lagoon, Set Valley, and then Finished Sweater Forest. That's fantastic. You guys are awesome. So thank you, Laura, for sharing all of that. Now this one is, by process of elimination, was able to figure it out. This is from Mary. Most recent sweater was this one, the Ruska Pullover by Jessica McDonald, all knit in handspun yarns, inverting the color choices light and dark from the original pattern. The yarns used was 100% Corriedale Lamb, 3-ply in natural gray brown, 826 yards. Contrast colors included Targhee, a Targhee silk bamboo blend, so an 80-10-10, 3-ply in pale yellow dyed with goldenrod, and from 51 yarns, and then a merino tweed 3-ply, and that was 10 yards. Beautifully done, Mary. Love this. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. So I think the only one that I wasn't able to share this week was Christine. So I will include hers next time. She had done the Crofter's smock and taken some really beautiful photos of it. And they're, I don't know where they're saved to because they're not in that list. So I wonder if that's why everything didn't populate properly. So thank you so much for seeing that through and being able to still do community participation. I think many of us get a lot of inspiration and motivation, and really gain a lot from seeing other people's work and hearing what they're working on, see what they're doing, seeing the things that they're inspired by. yeah, it's just really, really excellent to see what everybody is working on, and the passion that people bring to their work. And it's just really wonderful to be able to share that here and to have the platform to be able to do that. So thank you, you guys. And thank you for taking photos of your stuff, because I know sometimes some people are purely process driven. They get into the flow and they don't think to take photos or videos and whatnot, and other people are totally that way. So I appreciate those who take that moment to take photos and to share them. Blocking planes. Alex, we're gonna have all these places. Laura says to message suggestions on Ravelry or DM them on Slack, and she'll try to get them all in, and she's gonna make a map as an art project. I think that is awesome, Laura. You definitely do that. That there are people who understand why I'm excited makes me want to keep producing stuff to share. Wonderful, Laura. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think when other people are so excited, it just reinvigorates all of us. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting. I hope that you guys have a wonderful week ahead of you. We've got lots going on in the community coming up, so do have a look at the Google Calendar. That is linked in the Slack channel. This past week, we had a maker morning that has gone up in the YouTube playlist for patrons of the community to watch and catch up on. We've got coming up this week, we've got the Wool Circle live stream on Friday morning, and then next weekend we've got the live stream at the regular time, regular place, and then we've got queries and explorations afterwards next Saturday. So there's no queries today. We're going to be doing our twice per month meetings and sticking with our traditional format. Those who are in that group know what I'm talking about. So have an absolutely wonderful rest of your week. I hope that there is sun wherever you are. And until next time, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy weaving, happy dreaming. And I will see you guys next time. Bye, everyone.